Hey guys, so Evanescia just dropped, and yes, we're gonna be doing this off stream to reduce the yap and all the kind of stuff going straight into the analysis. So without further ado, Evanescia, right, the second unit for the upcoming version 4.2, which pretty much means that she is gonna be not the same time frame as the actual anniversary, because for HSR's anniversary is always gonna be the very first unit. In any case, one season of Phantasmal waxing full, one season of Mortal Inferiority, Mysterious Lady appeared in Planet Arcadia once more, Fallen Petal scatters of ease, and her stay was but a fleeting instant. Everything about this new era enthralls her, and she will not allow anyone to bring it ruin. A color educates right and wrong, but who can say how much good or evil lies with oneself, right? Special shout out to Evanescia for winning Innate 2D Fan Constitution, as well as Eternal High School Girl. And it takes 10 years to grow a tree, but 100 to nurture people. I'm pretty sure this is like the same Chinese idiom. It's like 10年成树, 百年成人, something like that. But in any case, yep, this is gonna be our physical elation 5-star Evanescia, which means everything I said previously about Silver Wolf, Drip Marketing, where elation will have a rainbow unit and she's gonna be a different element. Well, we can throw that out of the window because she is actually gonna be of the physical elation. Then taking a closer look into the actual picture, you can kind of see that she has this Sakura sword, which seems to have this like measuring ruler kind of thing, and she is sitting on top of what appears to be this. I personally use this to like build Gundam models. Like you use it to like measure things and cut them out for piece by piece. Basically some sort of like a measuring little thingy. So she might build Gundam, right? That might be pretty interesting. Another ruler here and a measuring tape. So she appears to have a lot of different measuring items, where she's measuring power cubes. I don't even know, right? But a lot of like protractors, right? The triangular thingamabobs, another ruler, the measuring tape that goes all the way out to the entire screen. And the elephant in the room, or rather, the fox in the room. Yes, she does appear to have a whole ass summon, which I don't really know how that is gonna specifically be working, because I feel like there is always a reason why Hoyoverse will invent a set and let that set have a specific effect that can benefit a new unit. In this case, Ever Glorious Magical Girl. That just has the reason why they have this one line over here where their Mimo sprite ignores 10% of the target's defense. Now, for this particular Mimo sprite angle, right, because it's a Mimo sprite, y'all should remember that Mimo sprites and summons are fundamentally two different things. Because, for example, your Lightning Lord, your Fu Yuan, and your Nambi, they are all summons. But they are not a Mimo sprite, because if you play HSR's lore, Mimo sprites, they are essentially creatures made from memory, which is why the entire thing was teamed around Amphorius. I am not exactly sure how this giant-ass fox is gonna be. Maybe there are some times like Honkai Ember Tree that I'm not aware of, where this fox is actually conjured from her memory. Then that might classify under the definition of a Mimo sprite, because if it's just gonna be a summon, it actually will not work with a set that gives Mimo sprite buffs, right? We can see that from previous summon DPS, which is also a little bit why like Jingyuan and all the other summons, they didn't really translate well into Remembrance anyways, because Mimo sprites are not the same as summons, right? But just a very, very interesting concept. And another thing that I kind of noticed, which I kind of just put up right here, is this. Evanescia and Remembrance Trailblazer, they are sitting in an extremely similar pose, where one is holding up the pen, right, from the Mimi pen, one is holding up the bubble tea, and they are also having their arms out like this, and their thighs, and their legs, and their face, and like everything. The pose just looks extremely similar for some reason. So I would be really surprised if Hoyoverse, or rather HSR, they decided to do this brand new strategy of, like, how do I say this? It's like they make a anniversary patch, but within the anniversary patch, which at this point is going to be 4.2, they technically don't need the first unit to be the main upsell of the anniversary patch. Because from the way it looks like at this moment, I think a lot of OG Honkai Impact 3 players will probably affirm this, is that way more people can understand the role of Yae Sakura, alright, Evanescia. Her ties with the previous, the Flame Chase journey, which is gonna be in the Elisea arc, Elysian realm. So, if she really does end up becoming another Elation flagship main DPS, I wouldn't be too surprised. But if it does, it will also mean that for the first time ever, either there will be two different Elation DPS where players can build their teams around, or one of the other is not going to be the actual main DPS. So either Silver Wolf or Evanescia, one of them is going to end up becoming like a more supportive role, which I just feel like it doesn't seem to function, because generally you do want to use like a business strategy, right, to push DPS sales, because of all the big banners, right, the big time events, they are usually always DPS. So if Evanescia does happen to be another DPS, then who are gonna be your teammates? Because from what we see right now in the Powerful Elation, we have Sparks and Yao Guang. That's it. And it's very interesting that they decided to make Evanescia a physical Elation DPS instead of another element, which means that she will share the exact same element with Yao Guang. And if she does share the exact same element with Yao Guang, it's not that elements actually mean anything at this point, because it is way more related to like the actual flagship itself, or rather the core functions of Elation than the actual elements. So whether or not your Sparks is fire, whether or not your Yao Guang is physical, whether or not even Evanescia is physical, it doesn't really matter that much. So what is way more important is how the kits actually work in combat. From what I see in this particular drip marketing, where if I were to compare it with, for example, Silver Wolf drip marketing that just happened yesterday, or Silver 9, you can kind of see that between both of them, first of all, their official account pinned Silver Wolf. I'm not sure if that means anything, but they pinned Silver Wolf, right? So maybe it makes it a little bit easier to see both of the drip marketing happening back to back, so that makes a little bit more sense. But from the way that it looks, this fox, this big ass I guess summon, it looks way more real compared to Silver Wolf's little dragon. The dragon could actually just be a particle effect from her personal attacks, right? From her personal kit, where if she were to launch an ultimate, right, a skill or whatever, then maybe the dragon comes out. But this fox, it really does look like it's materialized. Like it actually exists based on Evanescia. You can see like the rope, right? The little clothes, right? The thingy hanging out from the back. And like Evanescia is almost like leaning on the fox itself, as compared to the actual little dragon, where it looks like a particle effect, right? So my main point is, between both of these units, it appears that Ever Glorious Magical Girl, and okay, maybe the thing is pink, right? Who knows? Pink Ever Glorious Magical Girl with the Mimo Sprite ignoring 10% defense, I think there might be a higher likelihood where Evanescia might end up using that set, just because of how much more realistic this fox actually looks compared to Silver Wolf herself, and you know, these ties over here, which is gonna be my personal guess right there. And then if I were to take a closer look into the actual design of Evanescia, just to zoom in a little bit more, you can kind of see that she looks very chill, right? Like she looks very happy, like very outgoing, almost a little bit of a similar vibe to like March 7th. Also pink hair again, bubble tea. You know, like how March 7th they had the bubble tea version where she was like the 100 March 7th. Yeah, and like she also has a lot of these tokens lying around. Like I am pretty damn sure that's a Labubu, if I can think about it, right? And then we have the Stele, the raccoon's little thingy that looks like a little buckle. We have the same book that she was reading, where, you know, the very start of Roaring 4.0, she was reading this exact same book upside down right before we crash into Planet Arcadia. And then all these are pretty much the tokens in which we can also see in the game itself. And then this is gonna be like another one of those like DVD or like books or kind of manga. And speaking about manga, I also kind of want to just remind you guys, right? Nihilux is a manga author. So this kind of ties me into like the main point of today's video, which is like my guess as to what she's gonna be doing, her kit, as well as her future performances with teammates and everything, right? This is just, you know, pure theoretical, right? I'm just gonna be guessing. I think what's gonna happen is Silverwolf will most likely end up using either definitely Yao Guang or Sparksy, probably both. Evanescia, I think what might happen is she will also use an Elation unit that might share the same team as SP Silverwolf. There might be some potential where you could run Evanescia with Silverwolf in the exact same team, alright, Silver Knight in the exact same team. So that is gonna lead to Evanescia, SP Silverwolf, Yao Guang, or Sparksy, and then our last slot being the Sustain. Or there might be another world in which when EMC comes out tomorrow, I'm hoping it comes out tomorrow, otherwise it will be a little bit sus. But if EMC comes out tomorrow, then EMC ideally will work with both Evanescia as well as SP Silverwolf, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense for HSR to create an entire brand new path for our Trailblazer and only for the Trailblazer to work with a singular Elation unit. That feels a little bit strange, especially when both of them Elation, right? So for example, if I can remind you guys back in HMC, right? So when HMC was first launched, you can basically run HMC with any super rate DPS, right? You can run with Boodale, you can run with Firefly, you can run with Wrap-Up, which I personally feel is probably going to be ending up in a very similar route where EMC is going to be a very, very good support for either Evanescia or SP Silverwolf. Can you run both of them in the same team? I think the likelihood is going to be a little bit lower. So in the current landscape, I think what might happen is that when Nihilux comes out in the future, because of this manga book, right? This is just purely me just guessing. I think Nihilux might end up becoming Evanescia's teammate. And then SP Silverwolf is going to end up using probably Yao Guang Sparksy. Then Evanescia might end up using Nihilux, EMC, and then whoever that EMC is going to be upgraded later in the future, maybe Nihilux is an upgraded version of EMC. Who knows, right? Then one more slot, which we cannot really identify. I think Yao Guang might just be able to fill that slot for both units, just because of the AHA instance. And then one more Sustain, where both Evanescia and Silverwolf can use hand-in-hand, just like Gallagher or Lingsha for any super break teams that are going to be using a break sustain. So, from the way the team structure looks as of right now, it appears that they are sort of taking like a combination of both the version 2 flagship trajectory with the version 3 Remembrance flagship trajectory. So it's a super break plus Remembrance flagship. You should remember that for version 2, the anniversary unit was actually not super break, right? The anniversary unit for version 2 was actually Acheron. So between both Evanescia as well as Silverwolf, I don't think they are going to be going down in that path just because both of them are Elation, right? One is imaginary Elation, one is going to be physical Elation. But what might end up happening is you probably might not need both units at the same time if you're going to be making a team around them. Just like how if you're going to be playing Super Break, you wouldn't really play as a Firefly main. You don't really have an option to go ahead and, let's just say, change the team to Boodale. Because if you do, you'll be stealing Firefly's teammates to Boodale instead. Same thing for Wrap-Up, right? In Amphorius, I don't think this was too much of an issue because there really is just a singular Remembrance flagship, and that is your Castorus, Evernight, Hyacinth, as well as Cyrene. And then before Cyrene, everyone was using 3-beat, right? Then all other Remembrance units, like for example, your Aglea, right? And technically, that really just only is going to be Aglea as an other DPS. She basically used a completely different team, which is going to be Babin, Hue Sunday. And then eventually, when Cyrene came out, she replaced the role of Sunday, replaced the role of Babin, and then when DHP came out, she replaced the roles of Hue, right? And then they basically are able to form two separate teams in tandem with a Remembrance flagship, which I am guessing might happen with Evanescia. So they are both running the same path, which is Elation. So they might have a very similar damage formula, just like Super Break, but they might end up just using two separate teams depending on what you personally prefer. So the best way I can think of is like, imagine if Remembrance Flagship, it was promoted the same way as a Super Break Flagship. Like, for example, Firefly was the main push, and then you have your Rabbi as well as your Boothill. For Remembrance, that pretty much was only just Aglea, and no one else that significant. And they don't really come close to the comparison of like the Caster's flagship with Evanescia, right? Unless you're talking about like Evanescia main DPS and sustainless. So I think this will also be a very similar case where there will be two different ways that you could choose to go about playing the Elation archetype, either with Silverwolf or Evanescia. Whichever one you prefer. I don't think they're gonna be differing that big in comment, but at this point, I'm just purely speculating because we have no idea what's gonna be going to happen, right? And I think a very good way to find out how this is gonna become in version 4.2 is gonna be tomorrow when EMC comes out. Now, we don't know what's the EMC kit. We can only guess. We only theorize on what's going to be happening. So just like how I basically guessed what was going to be happening for example, SP Silverwolf, I mentioned that you can take a look at my previous video where essentially SP Silverwolf, she does have a lot of inference with like a upgrade, right? Like when she showed the trailer for Myriad Celestia in Planet Arcadia, she had the upgraded form in Strike Freedom, right? Where she had the full, you know, the Gurren Lagann glasses, right? The Strike Freedom wings, right? Everything, the tail comes out, all comes out. So it appears to signal to me that she has an alternate form, right? Just like for example, Firefly going to the Sand mode, right? Whereas for Evanescia, based on this drink marketing, it looks like she really does have a very good chance where this Fox is gonna be contributing towards the kit. Just like how for Silverwolf, her upgraded form in Ultimate is going to be contributing towards the kit, right? So with all that being said and established, I think one of the questions that you guys are probably wondering right now is, okay, at this point, Sparksy, Yao Guang, because they are right up, right? They are currently on the banner. Who should I be putting for if I want to play the Elation flagship? And unfortunately, I just really cannot in good faith give you guys a proper answer because the paths are going about in a very different way as what you can expect from, let's just say, the Remembrance flagship. I think back then, even for Super Break, actually, for both the Super Break flagship as well as the Remembrance flagship, it was a lot easier to see if those units in the future, even before knowing their kit, is gonna be a benefit to the actual cost investments if you want to play set team. Because they always released the DPS before the supports, sub DPS, sustain, all the kind of stuff, right? So, for example, this is like trying to say, okay, Fugue came out in Super Break, right? Fugue came out, but before Fugue came out, we don't even know how is HMC, how is Firefly, how is Boothill, how is Rabbi gonna work. And then another example is like, they released Evernight, right? They released Evernight purely just as a standalone, E0S1, before Caster's new butt, right? Before Cyrene's Mimo Sprite Again, before Hyacinth's sustain capabilities. It will become very difficult to see the full picture because, let's just be for real, at E0 Evernight, if you don't have answers to the rest of the team, she is not really that insane of a unit by herself, which is why you don't run Evernight with other supports like your Robin, right? You don't run Evernight with Robin, you don't run Evernight with Sunday. You only run them, or rather you run Evernight with RMC, right? With your Tribbies, right? With your Cyrenes, because you know how this kit functions in the future. So because of this predicament, since we do not actually know what are the core mechanics of said main DPS, either Silver 9 or Evanescia, it does get to a very weird territory where I don't know if punchlines are going to be more important or if aha instance is going to be more important. And the best way I can just guess about it right now is basically which one is more common, right? Which one is more difficult to obtain for you as a player. So you can kind of take a look back into this little tweet that I made for... Oh boy, yeah, we post a lot of shit over here. This little tweet that I made over here, purely just in terms of scarcity, I would say that aha instance will be more rare to obtain. Because aha instance, you only get him based on a strict amount of speed of your elation units, right? So because AHA speed is tied to your elation unit speed. So ideally, when your 4 core members of your elation units take place, your AHAs will then move more frequently. But despite having more elation units, or the elation units having more speed, your AHA can't move by that big of a difference anyways. The best possible way right now that we have is a 134 AHA with a 200 speed unit 1 for elation and a 134 speed unit 2 for elation. And it's extremely difficult to try and hit, like for example, a 267 speed or a 200 speed AHA. So the AHA can go for 3 times in a single action for 150 AV. And even if AHA gets to, let's just say 200 speed, right? If you want to get a 200 speed AHA, having the additional instance on Yao Guang, it would directly mean that you just gave your AHA another whole ass action, which translates to from 200 speed to a 267 speed AHA, or a 134 speed to a 200 speed AHA. Basically by roughly 66, 67, roughly by 66, 67 speed boost for AHA directly, just because you got an additional instance, and that's from a single Yao Guang ornament. So my personal biasness towards action value, right? I believe in action value more than the actual damage multipliers, because action value is everything when it comes to a turn-based game, which is why you can see 4-piece ego Duns being so prevalent. And even like till now, if you want to run sustainless, like I still see Bubbin being used to this day for 0 cycles. That's how strong action values are. So because of that, I have a personal bias towards why Yao Guang has a bigger importance compared to Sparksy, because punchlines, they are pretty much just giving you additional damage, right? For every single one punchline that you have, your elation skill will do more damage. But because this punchline is gonna be only a damage multiplier increase, I don't really know if that's gonna be more important than a pretty much at least one entire AHA turn every single time you cast Yao Guang's ultimate, right? So that is just gonna be from my personal beliefs. But like I mentioned, right, between both Evanescia as well as SP Silv, I think both of them, they show extremely strong promise. It just really depends on, do they want punchlines more, or do they want AHA instance more? Because they can definitely use both, right? Every single elite unit can definitely use both. It's just that which one do they prefer more than that? And I think the answer to that, at this point, I just can't give you guys a proper say. We can only know when they actually show off their kits, at least in the early access in 4.2, which actually wouldn't take that long, because Asheville is only going to be a 4-week banner. I am most likely going to be playing Asheville's early access by this week, so within the next 3 weeks after, I should be able to already see like what 4.2 is going to be offering, and that will be painting a much better picture. In any case, my bottom line is basically, you don't really have to think about it that much, because for every single instance in history, for all of the main push DPS, right, for your Fireflies, for your Caceres, for even your Acheron, right, your Face House, all the main DPS that gets promoted, what tends to happen is that they always rerun the supports. So let's just say you missed out on Sparksy as well as Yao Guang, or you don't really know who you want to pull for as of this moment, because maybe you don't want to play Sparksy as a main DPS. Right? Because I personally don't think Sparksy fulfills the role as a main DPS at E0. It's like trying to play main DPS Evanescia at E0, right? She could work right now, yes, because you are running her Sparkle, but eventually I think Sparkle is definitely going to be moving away, and the actual main DPS is either going to be Silver 9 or Evanescia, right? So if you can't decide right now, right, if you want to pull for Yao Guang, right, if you want to pull for Sparksy, I think it doesn't really matter, because by the time these units come around by 4.2, I'm almost positive they will be getting a pretty quick rerun schedule. Maybe it happens on 4.2, maybe it happens one batch later, who knows, but there really isn't too big of a rush, because the supports usually come very close together with the DPS, because that's how they sell, right? That's how gacha companies sell you guys the entire archetype. You go for the DPS, and they know that after players go for the DPS, they will want to think of ways to boost up the sales of supports and sub DPS and sustains related to said DPS. So with that being established, I think between Evanescia, okay, since this video is just going to be for Evanescia, I will be looking forward to see how the actual EMC drip marketing is going to be looking like, which probably is going to be coming out tomorrow, because this is going to be the anniversary, and if EMC don't come out by 4.2, I think it's going to be a little bit too late with regards to the pacing in the elation anyways, because by in the middle of 4.4 or like 4.5, we are probably already going to IBZ Island, because Planet Arcadia is going to be ending in half the time compared to Enforcers, right? So, in any case, I know that between both units, Silver 9 and Evanescia, I know there is going to be war in a tier list. No matter what happens, right? No matter do you like Silver 9 more, do you like Evanescia more, I know for a fact that the moment these two come out, there is 100% gonna be conflict of which of these teams are gonna be better, and then we're gonna see the whole cost argument again. Oh, look at my E2 Evanessia's 2 cost 0 cycle compared to a Silver Wolf like 3 cost 0 cycle, 4 cost 0. It is definitely coming. Just to mentally prepare yourselves, because who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe Evanescia might just end up becoming like an Annexa, right? Maybe Evanescia becomes like a sub DPS to SP Silver Wolf. Maybe both of them are gonna be playing the same team. Then turns out you can just run a hyper carry Evanescia without SP Silver Wolf, and then she just deals way more damage. Who knows at that point? But I am really looking forward to see how version 4.2 is gonna be shaping up. And if you were to ask me just one parting note between both drip marketing, me personally, I prefer this more. Yep, because Big Fox and yay. Very chill, right? So that's just me. With that, we've come to the end of Evanessia's drip marketing analysis from your local HSR expert. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I did this all because I want to get this up as fast as humanly possible. Word of the day is gonna be yay. Join this. Use code POKE for 10% gamers ups. All the best. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.